Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great. Yes, Cannabiz.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical, Russ Belville.
All right. Welcome, everybody. We're back and better than ever in super 3D and Technicolor. I don't know how we pulled that off on radio, but we did. I'm Radical Russ, coming to you live and direct from beautiful legal Potland, Oregon. Yes, it's great to be here in Potland, even though it's rainy and dark and gray and cold and yuck. We still have the best weed on the planet, so that makes up for it a little bit. We had a little disconnection there during the Radical Rant. Sorry about that, folks, but if you want to catch the end of that rant, it will be available on the podcast. But now there's a question as to how soon I can get the podcast up. Stupid Laptop, that's its official name, by the way. Stupid Laptop now isn't reading my SD card reader. So Microsoft must have pushed out some update or something. It's already my DVD drive wouldn't read, and now my card reader won't read. It's only a matter of time before I use USB ports and can't do a damn thing here. So my apologies. I'll get the podcast up as soon as I can get the tech figured out. You know how it is. I do the best I can. But yeah, Tiaras in the chat room says my laptop is all potted up on weed. It's been hanging out with Snoopy Poop Dog. That's probably the case. Yeah, we'll get that out as soon as possible. Also, I want to remind folks to check out my writing outlets on the web. You can catch my twice weekly High Times Radical Rant column on Tuesdays and Fridays at hightimes.com. Make sure to share them, send them along to your Facebook friends and such. And, of course, you got to be following weednews.co, my latest news blog collaboration. I'll be writing daily at weednews.co. So if you heard today's bit on the pot and pregnancy and morning sickness stuff, that's all up there on weednews.co, featuring myself and the unbelievable Johnny Green, one of the greatest cannabis bloggers out there, and many others who are contributing, including Anthony Johnson, the chief petitioner for our successful Measure 91 here in Oregon. So get your latest weed news at weednews.co. Now, coming up here in this hour, it is Toker Talk Radio, and that means that you can call in live. Our phone number here is 650-LEGAL-MJ. That's 650-534-2565. 650-LEGAL-MJ, and we can chat about whatever you like. If you got comments, questions, concerns, criticisms, we will cover it here on Toker Talk Radio. Now, maybe you don't want to talk live. Maybe you just want to get a word out or a shout out or something like that. You can do that too. Our number, 650-LEGAL-MJ, is live 24 hours a day. Well, I shouldn't say it's live 24. It's on. It's answered. There we go. It's answered 24 hours a day because it's a Google Voice number. And you can leave a voicemail message. And if we like it, we will play it back on the show for you. In fact, we're going to get to one right after the first break here. That's going to introduce our segment on another drug, psychedelics. You know, magic mushrooms, LSD, that kind of stuff. Because in Toker Talk Radio, we kind of let what's left of my hair down. and loosen my imaginary tie. And we might talk about stuff other than weed, folks. So today we're going to talk a little bit about magic mushrooms and LSD and some other psychedelics and their treatment for mental health conditions. Also, coming up in this hour, we're going to talk about some people's optimistic takes on the future of cannabis in Trumpistan. I'm not so optimistic, folks, but maybe I'm wrong. I would be glad to be wrong. And then as we wind things up today, we'll take a look up at the Pine Tree State up in Maine and how the opponents of question 1 there, who just gave up the recount, are now trying to dictate how the regulations are written. That's all coming up here in Toker Talk Radio on the Russ Belville Show.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Every strain, every sale, every medical study. Keep it right here on the Cannabiz Radio Network.
While the feds and state are doing their dance, you still need to transact business and manage your cash. Go professional and let your customers pay with PayQuick. They pay you and they earn rewards points. PayQuick connects to your bank account for free and secures all of your transactions. And with PayQuick, you can pay your producers and processors for free. Plus, it pays to have it because it makes depositing your cash safe and so easy. No cops, no crooks, just compliance and comfort, knowing you have your cannabis business in check with PayQuick. PayQuick, the safe and easy way to pay. PayQuick.com.
I'm Radical Russ from the Russ Belville Show. Keith Stropp, the founder of NORML, is here.
The single most important victory will be California.
We've got Steve D'Angelo.
Well, the state of cannabis affairs in California is in flux.
The guru of ganja, Ed Rosenthal.
It's better for people to be using concentrates.
Weekdays live at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific, exclusively on CannabisRadio.com.
The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
At Herbie's Cannabis Seeds, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best quality seeds from the world's most respected cannabis seed producers, all at the lowest online prices. You can find Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. All cannabis seeds are sold as souvenirs and as a means of preserving cannabis genetics. Herbie's Seeds in no way intends to condone, promote, or incite the use of illegal or controlled substances. We strongly urge all prospective customers to check their national laws prior to placing an order. Herbie's Seeds at herbiesheadshop.com. Proud sponsors of the Russ Belville Show and 420 Radio.
And Blue Blasten Gergen, Pfaffendur Blasten, Schnurb Norben. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation, only on CannabisRadio.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It's Toker Talk Radio here on the Russ Belville Show. Hour 2. Things are a little more relaxed. The topics are open. Our phone line is 650-LEGAL-MJ. If you've got a topic to bring up or something that we should discuss, be glad to do it. That's what we're here for. And speaking of, I want to go to our number there, our 650-LEGAL-MJ number, where we have a message stored for us while we were out on our vacation. This one coming from the 260 area code.
Hey, Russ. This is Dan Joyner out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. I was just wondering what you thought of the FDA approving the use of psychedelic mushrooms to treat depression in cancer patients, but they won't even try cannabis. Just wondering how you thought about that. Thanks. Bye.
Well, thanks for the call, Dan from Fort Wayne. And, well, it's typical hypocrisy, right? It's the typical hypocrisy we expect from the government, approving the use. And I love how limited it is, right? Right? Well, okay, we'll let you try the mushrooms, but just for depression. We don't want to see just depression, and only if you've got cancer, right? Like, how is the depression in cancer patients differ from the depression in anyone else? How does cancer affect depression? I don't get why we have to limit it to just the cancer patients. But okay, that's nice. Let's see what we can do there, right? I'm for it, though. I'm for the use of psychedelic mushrooms for the treatment of depression. Absolutely. I'm for any study of any substance, right? I'm pro-science, man. Let's get some science on this. Sure. Mushrooms for depression, LSD for alcoholism, MDMA for people with post-traumatic stress. I mean, let's try it all. It's just remarkable to me what we accept as treatment in this country. A lot of these SSRIs, a lot of these antidepressant drugs that come with a black box warning, toughest warning the FDA can give you on a drug. They'll come with this warning that says, may cause suicidal ideation. Really? We have drugs that may cause suicidal ideation being routinely prescribed to people with depression. That's like prescribing, cannabis to someone to try to make them more boring. It's kind of contraindicated, don't you think? It's just amazing to me what we'll accept. We accept doctors routinely prescribing fentanyl. Fentanyl, folks. We're talking something that's 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine. We accept that. We figure that's okay. That's Schedule 2. It's dangerous. We know we'll admit it's dangerous. But it's got a medical purpose, and as long as a doctor's watching over you, everything's okay. Go ahead and take the fentanyl. Go ahead and take the propofol. Drugs that killed Michael Jackson and Prince, go ahead and take them because doctors say those are safe. FDA approved them. They're just fine. But we can't approve of taking a look at cancer patients using cannabis. That's a bridge too far. That's too dangerous. That's too much of a risk for us. Come on now. Nobody buys it. Nobody buys it anymore. The support for medical marijuana in this country is about 89%. We just saw an election where we were able to pass medical marijuana in North Dakota with about 2/3 of the vote. So come on, man. Of course we should be studying cannabis for depression, for anxiety, for all of these mental health conditions. That's another thing that's amazing to me. What we'll accept as treatment for mental health conditions that are devastating to physical health, right? Like a lot of your antidepressants out there are bad for the boner. Let's put it that way, right? They have severe sexual side effects, not just for men, but also for women. It can cause severe lack of libido, right? So you're not bummed out anymore, but you're not anyone who's getting frisky anymore either. Or how about some of these drugs that cause constipation, right? You're happy, but you're on the toilet all day. So at least you're happy about it, right? We'll accept that. We got no problem with that side effect. But this side effect of euphoria, oh my goodness, it might make someone feel good. Someone's got cancer, and if they smoke pot to stop puking from the chemo, why, they might giggle. Why is euphoria such the side effect that is freaking us all out? Not the constipation, not the suicidal ideation, but it's the euphoria. Well, people are feeling good. I don't get it. Well, actually, I do get it. I have a theory about it. I think it dates back to our Puritan founding. You know, this dread fear that somebody somewhere might be having a good time. We got to make sure to eliminate that, right? And I've actually worked this theory out a bit. I think about how our society accepts, to a degree, tobacco smoking and largely accepts and celebrates alcohol drinking. And, you know, we've gone over this a number of times when you talk about the culture. It's a cultural thing. Why won't Kevin Sabet fight to ban alcohol? Well, it's accepted by culture. It's just too late. It's just too many people love it. It's cultural. Right? Well, why is it cultural? Why did our culture of Puritans accept that and not the other things? And it goes back to my theory of Puritanism, this idea that somebody somewhere might be having fun This notion that if there's anything good, to feel something good, you either have to have worked hard for it and suffered and toiled and sweat before you got that something good. Or if you got that something good without suffering, then you have to suffer afterwards, right? So it's that notion that, in my mind, that part of why our culture accepts alcohol is because it extracts a price for its use. You have fun with the alcohol, but then you also get that hangover, right? You have too much fun from the alcohol, and you get direct punishment. You get the selling a Buick to Ralph and Earl, or having a Technicolor yawn, or laughing at your shoes. Whatever euphemism you want to use for puking your guts out. There's a punishment. You can't have your pleasure without your pain when it comes to alcohol. And similarly, there's a punishment for the cigarette as well. Right? Lung cancer, death, coughing, hacking, your clothes smelling, having to stand 25 feet away from an entrance, not being able to use it anywhere you like, being a social pariah. So, okay, you can have your pleasure so long as it comes with a heaping helping of pain. When it comes to the pharmaceutical drugs, those, while they have certain pleasures, are achieved by going through certain types of pain or certain problems, like having to go see a doctor and have a sickness that is debilitating you in some way. So here's that suffering before the pleasure. So you're suffering, you got sickness, you got an illness, you got a debilitation. You're suffering before you get your pleasure. Now you get your fentanyl, your propofol, your Vicodin, whatever it might be. So as long as you've suffered before, you can have the pleasure of the drug. Or if you suffer afterward from the drug, you can have it. But if you just get pleasure without an accompanying amount of pain, that drug has to be illegal. And that's where we're at with marijuana. That's why marijuana oftentimes is the most vilified one. That's why it's Schedule 1 and Coke and meth are Schedule 2. Coke and meth actually have some purpose, according to these people. The Coke you can go, if you're going through the pain of a dental or a nasal surgery, you can have the pleasure of the cocaine. If you're going through the pain of being a hyperactive kid, then we can give you the pharmaceutical meth, the Adderall, the Ritalin. Right? There's the whole pain pleasure principle. But that's why marijuana is so vilified. That's why cannabis is so evil to these people, because not only does it give you a great deal of pleasure, recreationally and medically, it doesn't require the pain. It doesn't give you the pain. You don't have to have the pain beforehand to get the pleasure, and you don't get any pain afterwards in the form of overdoses or hangovers or significant problems. That's why it's so culturally unacceptable in the Puritan mindset. You're cheating. You're cheating God. You're getting pleasure without having to pay for it. That's their problem with it. And this mindset, this Puritan mindset, is something that's going to be difficult to overcome. Maybe not in a generation or two is this going to get cleared up, but it's going to have to, and we're slowly doing it, state by state, law by law. And notice how, as we do so, they continue to try to put as much pain into it as they can. Well, it's got to be highly taxed. Well, why? Well, because if it wasn't highly taxed, lots of people would use lots of it. And that's bad because why? Well, we got to add tax. We got to add some pain. We got to put the stores as far away from people and make them as inconvenient as possible, so that there's an actual level of pain involved there, and so on. That's my theory. I don't know how to test it, but I think it's true. That we just don't like people, and that's why we'll allow people to go skydiving. You can go skydiving in this country. You can be a charismatic snake handler in a South Carolina church and handle poisonous snakes. You can be one of those free base jumpers. You can go to Twin Falls, Idaho, strap a rubber band onto your legs, and jump off of an active
your
bridge.
Smoking section right here. This is the Cannabiz Radio Network.
It all goes to show you that it's always something.
You know, Rosanna Dana, you're absolutely right. It's always something. Happy 420 to everyone here from the Pacific Time Zone, one of America's 2 legal time zones, except for that panhandle of Idaho part. Sorry, Coeur d'Alene. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at Todd Mitchum's optimistic take on cannabis in Trumpistan. A couple of op-eds out there, more optimistic than I am.
Great websites today need expert web design and development and need to be e-commerce ready and mobile friendly. But building a marketable and profitable website can be an uphill climb. Ready to make your new website or replace your existing website? Think Orange as the new way to get in the black. Orange Hill Development works with Fortune 500 companies and offer the same top quality development service at a fraction of what other providers charge. Brands like Absolute, Carlsberg, and Nestea trust Orange Hill Development. Find out why you should trust your website with Orange Hill. Contact Orange Hill for a consultation today at orangehilldevelopment.com.
It's time for Cannabis Facts about Alzheimer's from Robert Platshorn's thesilvertour.org. This message is supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com. A new Florida study in the journal Molecular and Cellular Neuroscience found that cannabis promotes the growth of healthy new brain tissue. It can slow the effects of Alzheimer's and may in fact be able to halt it entirely. A long-term study by Ohio State University's Professor Gary Wenk concludes that people who regularly use marijuana get Alzheimer's at a much lower rate than others. This was Cannabis Facts from thesilvertour.org, an educational nonprofit supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. And some, I assume, are good people.
Okay. Maybe you're high, too.
When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com.
Remember, friends, there's more to life than marijuana. I just can't remember what it is. Why'd I come in here? You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a good safety meeting. I feel a whole lot safer myself. Just going through some of my news feeds when I saw this bit on the cannabis feed. It's interesting, too. I said, if you set up a Google News feed, here's my recommendation, right? Set up a Google News feed on the word marijuana, set up another one on the word pot, and then set up a third one on the word cannabis. And it's interesting how they differ, right? The marijuana feed is, U.S.-centric and is both the good stories and the bad stories. The pot feed tends to have more of the bad stories. A lot of the Fox News kind of stuff ends up there. Daily Mail and such. And then the cannabis feed is more international because, of course, internationally, they refer to it as cannabis more often. So I pulled this up on the cannabis feed. The headline, this is off of 9 News in Australia, talking about how a sex party member of parliament shares her affiliation with cannabis. Okay, and it's the show Weedicate, with Krishna out there on Vice. If you've ever seen the show, pretty good show, and he features him traveling the world and talking to people about cannabis. And so here he is talking with a member of parliament. Woman's name is Fiona Patten, and she is fighting for marijuana legalization in the Australian parliament. And there she is in the big story here on 9 News. Oh no, is how this member of parliament, my gosh, she's sitting here smoking pot, although it never actually shows her smoking pot. But Here she is smoking pot with this American reporter, and oh my God, scandal, right? And meanwhile, I'm sitting here going, wait a minute. Let's go back to that part about sex party. Because really, anytime you say sex party, folks, I'm there. Let's go. I'm in. What's the cover charge? But no, it just caught me that there's a sex party in Australia. And they have a member of parliament. You third party dolts here in America, you aren't even trying hard enough. Man, we need a sex party in this country. Yeah, you want to pull some third party votes. Let's run a sex party candidate. I love parliamentary systems. You get all these great little small parties, and every now and then they get a member of parliament. It just makes things that much more interesting. Yes, let's have a sex party. Let's leave it at that. Let's go back to the topic I wanted to talk about in this segment before I got distracted by sex. And that would be this idea about the Trump administration and how it may react to marijuana legalization. And there's a op-ed that's up on thehill.com, which is kind of the blog of Congress up there. And it's entitled, Why a Trump Administration is Unlikely to Kill Legal Marijuana. And it's contributed by Todd Mitchum. Now, as background, Todd Mitchum has been on the show a couple of times. And he was the CEO of Open Vape when I went after them about their drug policy. But they, to their credit, changed their drug testing policy. Also, CannaSearch and Hi There. And he's got an upcoming book and a bunch of other things that he's doing. And he's a good guy. I've talked to Todd in person at a couple of different cannabis events. Good guy. And he's got this op-ed up in the Hill. And it's been an interesting way this has shaken out since Trump has been elected. Because a lot of people in the cannabis industry are kind of taking this, we think we can work with them kind of approach. National Cannabis Industry Association, their director, Aaron Smith, released a statement that was, we're cautiously optimistic kind of thing. That's not his quote. I'm just kind of characterizing it here. But this idea that they don't want to ruffle feathers and maybe everything will be okay because, Donald Trump is for states' rights and he's a businessman and there's a lot of money and it's already 8 states and it's really popular. It's 60% in the Gallup poll, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot of that happening. And I'm not just picking on Todd Mitchum here. There's another, the president of Grow Solutions Holdings, Jeff Beverly, on CNBC yesterday had a op-ed up. It's called Why the Pot Industry Will Keep Growing Under Trump. And it's based on, both of their pieces are based on a number of points. And let me just see if we can run down these bit by bit. One of them, Todd gives 4 points, and one of his points is states' rights. And he says it would be a very time-consuming process. There'd be state versus federal lawsuits. It would be a huge financial and time drain for the incoming administration to have to fight the marijuana advocates. It would betray the concept of states' rights that libertarians are so for, and as Mitchum writes, quote, "Don't forget, Trump is a business leader first, and as any smart CEO will tell you, you don't spend money fighting something you could make money embracing. It's simple economics," end quote. Yeah, but here's my problem with that. He used the term smart CEO. I don't know that Trump's a smart CEO. I don't know that Trump's smart in any sense of the word. A look at the list of his business failures and the shady practices in business he's had to employ just to stay a billionaire businessman, allegedly, leads me to believe he's not the greatest businessman in the world. So, to me, Trump isn't so much the business guy as he is the Trump guy. Trump is about Trump. Money just happens to make Trump, but Trump is about Trump. And if he sees a way to be more popular, to have a greater legacy in going after marijuana, if it somehow makes Trump better, a better Trump, a more loved Trump, he'll do it. So I don't know that I have the optimism that the states' rights thing is going to play so well, because it never played well with conservatives in the past when it came to medical marijuana. When it came to marijuana legalization, conservative administrations in the past have been more than willing to go after it. States' rights, remember, for a lot of these conservatives, isn't an ideological principle unless it's convenient for them. When they want to restrict abortion or gay rights or voting rights or something like that, then they're suddenly states' rights people. But if a state wants to change how it, say, runs its immigration policies, enforces federal immigration laws or gun laws or marijuana laws, well, that states' rights thing isn't such a big deal anymore for a lot of them. Todd also makes the point of the federal budget process, that in order to go after the states that have legalized, you'd have to ramp up the budget for the DEA. That's going to take time, big, long, drawn-out process. But you don't have to spend a whole lot of money to go after. Yes, if you wanted to hire enough DEA agents to raid every single pot legal business in America, yeah, that would take a massive budget. Doesn't take a massive budget to send some letters or raid just a couple of the biggest and best known places to send a chilling effect to everyone else that they could be next. It wouldn't take a lot of money to have to do that. The third point that Todd Mitchum makes is that the president takes a positive position on marijuana, then the attorney general and everybody in Department of Justice will have to fall in line. And that Trump is a business leader again, and Trump would love the economic impact of all this pot money coming in and wouldn't want to rock the boat when it comes to the popularity of marijuana amongst the people. Really? You really want to bank on that? Because what I've seen administration after administration, even Obama's, raiding medical marijuana, which is even more popular than recreational marijuana by a long shot. And so the popularity doesn't convince me much, and the revenue doesn't convince me much, just because while it is great to make money on marijuana, in the federal budget scope of things, it's a tiny drop in the bucket. So it's not big enough to worry about the political capital involved. If it was, we'd have seen these politicians worried about the political capital of attacking medical marijuana, and they never seem to be worried about it. And the number 4 point made by Todd is the cartels. Nobody wants to be seen as emboldening the cartels. Really? Because if you take the legal marijuana market, if you undercut it in America, and then you rebuild that demand for the illegal cartel weed, and that leads to more of the smuggling and more of the border problems, that provides the political firestorm necessary to help get a wall built. Remember the wall? There may be a situation here where Trump wants there to be more problems with drugs and trafficking coming across the border, because that creates the problem needing to be solved by building a big effing wall. In the other piece, the point about political capital was made. This is the piece by Jeff Beverly on CNBC. He says, quote, "For Trump to spend substantial political capital battling the legalization trend when such crucial states to Republican victory as Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania all passed measures approving cannabis use this year seems unlikely," end quote. Yeah, but Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, all medical marijuana. Ohio and Pennsylvania, the strictly super controlled medicinal cannabinoid types that, don't have home grow. Florida doesn't either. All of them, the strictly controlled types that have no home grow, where marijuana is a very strictly controlled thing you only get at the dispensary, only for very certain conditions. That's not the legalization trend. You are comparing apples and oranges in that sentence. The legalization trend is still something that's supported by 60% of the people, but not 60% of the older people who vote, not 60% of the people who are the conservative partisans who make up the people who vote in Republican primaries. So we're still a long ways out before this is something that's endangering anybody's political capital to fight. It's not something that's big enough to help someone's political career by supporting, nor is it big enough to take down someone's political career by opposing, at least not on the national level yet. I can, exception proves the rule. Ellen Rosenblum here in Oregon won attorney general against a guy in a Democratic primary. Again, Democratic primary in a blue state for opposing medical marijuana. Her support of it helped her win. But generally speaking, I'm talking about, people running for federal office, running for president and such. And all this talk about how much tax money it's made in Colorado and how much tax money it's made in Washington, and that if we shut that down, then the states would start bitching. Folks, I think a lot of these people in the industry, and again, Todd Mitchum's in the industry, Jeff Beverly's in the industry, these guys are like top CEOs and president types who want to make sure that us consumer types out here, the people that would buy their products and the people who would invest in their stock, they want to make sure that we think everything's hunky-dory, everything's fine, everything's okay. Keep buying, keep investing. So there may be a little bit of a bias here or let's not say bias, let's say maybe even blinders to just how vitriolic and strong the opposition can be and just how powerful a moral panic and a culture crusade can be. The lesson of the cannabis crusaders of the 70s, thinking it would be legal by 1978, only to find Ronald Reagan in office, then suffering through all the downturn of the Just Say No era. We are just one stoned school bus driver wreck away from a public relations disaster that could have unfathomable impacts on legalization. Never think that the pendulum can't swing backwards, folks.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Earn your PhD in THC monetization with CannabisRadio.com. Don't be late.
CannabisRadio.com proudly presents the newest and greatest podcast in the galaxy, The Real Dirt with Chip Baker, your insider industry connection to accurate and entertaining information about cannabis technology, production, cultivation, and everything in between. Rolling joints and dropping knowledge about cannabis technology, production, cultivation, and everything in between. The future of legal cannabis has arrived, and we want to give you The Real Dirt with Chip Baker. Look for new episodes at CannabisRadio.com, TheRealDirt.com, or subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio.
The smoke is rising, and the next crop of podcasts devoted to cannabis providers and enthusiasts are ready to be harvested. Welcome to the Cannabis Radio Network, founded by respected rainmakers who have been producing award-winning podcasts for over a decade. Industry headlines, business updates, medical reports, marketing, and e-commerce education rolled up perfectly for your consumption. Let's grow together. The Cannabis Radio Network, CannabisRadio.com.
The Russ Belville Show reminds you to never smoke and drive impaired. Hang out for a while and share.
New beginner guitars and banjos are often constructed much better than ones built before your time. Why struggle? Get a new instrument or fix the old one. The trusted professionals at the Fingerboard Extension will evaluate your instrument for free. Repairs are priced for people who work for a living. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension downtown Corvallis at 120 Northwest 2nd Street today, or check out its inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com.
Warning, hits taken on this show are larger than they appear. Do not try this at home. These people are professionals. Or at least they pay me to say that. This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome back, everybody. It is almost 40 after the hour here in beautiful legal Potland, Oregon. We're coming to you live from Delta 9 Studios in the southeast part of the town. And it's great to be back here at Delta 9. It's great to just have a studio. I was pretty much mobile and homeless for most of 2016, which has wreaked havoc on my taxes, folks, with my home office deduction. Oh, my God. So if you're feeling in the Christmas spirit and you would like to send a Christmas gift my way in the form of filthy money, I would really appreciate it. The PayPal address is russ@radicalruss.com. If you're feeling in the giving Christmas spirit, this would be a really good time for that here at the end of the year. Russ@radicalruss.com, which, speaking of radicalruss.com, I know that page has been kind of on a static page for quite a while now. I keep meaning to get the website updated, but there's so much to do. And I've been so busy with travel and the show and the election and forming weednews.co that I just haven't gotten around to it. But it's going to happen. I promise, and there's going to be a great new radicalruss.com page. And on that radicalruss.com page, I was reading some of the chat room earlier, and I believe it was Tim in the chat room who was saying, I really miss being able to see Russ do the show. And someone else, I think it was Kathy, said, yeah, I really miss seeing his smiling face. Thanks. I always thought I had kind of a face for radio, but I appreciate the sentiment. And if you go out to my YouTube page at youtube.com/radicalruss, you'll see that I used to do the show with a video feed. And it's not like, you know, a TV show or anything, folks. It's just a webcam pointing at me, talking in a microphone. And I don't know why that made a big difference to a lot of people, but apparently it did. And I think part of it was just the distribution platform. YouTube is kind of ubiquitous and easy to access for a lot of people. So in 2017, one of my resolutions is that we will get the video feed back on this daily show. And I'll have it go live probably through YouTube Live and Facebook Live. I'm going to try to do both at the same time. And I don't know. It's going to take me another laptop. I'm going to have to get... That's really what's holding me up on any of these things, is getting more. I can barely keep this laptop running audio for the 2-hour show, man. I need more computers. And that goes back, did I mention that I could use some money? Russ@radicalruss.com on PayPal if you want to donate. And really, you don't donate me the kind of money that would buy a couple more laptops, and you'd be amazed at what I could make this show do. But for now, we'll just accept with humble Christmas thanks anything that we receive. We appreciate it. And we're also looking for new sponsors and advertisers on the show. You hear the ads day after day. You want to hear some new ads, some new sponsors? Help me out, man. Let's get some new ones. I've got a few out there cooking, including, well, that's not a new sponsor, but a new ad. We'll get a new ad out from the International Cannabis Business Conference, which is announced the San Francisco event that's taking place the 16th and 17th of February. I think that's it. Just checking. Yeah, 16th and 17th of February, the International Cannabis Business Conference in San Francisco. And we'll have the conference organizer, Alex Rogers, joining us on tomorrow's show to preview that a little bit. So you'll be hearing an ad from them. All right, let me get back to some news stories here, because it's good news for me that the recount in Maine has been dropped. Scott M. Gagnon is the, or is it Gagnon? I'm not sure how it's pronounced. But Scott is the Maine Project Sam director. Project Sam out in the state of Maine. And we've gone back and forth on Twitter quite a bit. He's at Scott M. Gagnon if you want to follow him. Or Gagnon, I'm not sure. Anyway, he's one of these Project Sam guys. He had actually predicted to me that Maine would defeat legalization. I win. Ha ha. Maine actually did pass it, and it passed it by a small margin, though. It was just like 4,000 votes. So the no on question one people, Scott Gagnon and his coterie of prohibitionists, wanted a recount, sued for a recount. And this is, you know, everybody pointed out this is going to cost a lot of money, a lot of taxpayer dollars to do a recount. But they went ahead and they recounted. And up till now, up till the point they stopped recounting, they had changed by like some 40 votes. It's just like a few votes that were, you know, recounted. The difference was about 40. So it was statistically not going to make a difference, right? There was going to be no difference. Marijuana is going to be legal. So Scott and the no on question one people dropped their recount. So that's the good news part of the story, that we get that from, so we don't have to spend some of this taxpayer money. But now they want to have the seat at the table in shaping the regulations and even in some cases changing the law to try to hamper and cripple the newborn legalization that has passed in the state of Maine. Keep in mind that Maine's legalization provides people to carry 2.5 ounces on their person, not just the 1 ounce that we get in most of the free states, all of the free states, except Washington, D.C. has 2 ounces. But 2.5 ounces in the state of Maine, and 6 mature plants, 12 immature plants, and unlimited seedlings to be cultivated for personal use. So it's got the best possession and cultivation limits of any of the legal states. I'm just happy that I didn't have to have my tattoo changed. I already got Maine shaded in. In fact, my friend Sean McAllister from DFW Normal, he said, "You sure you want to get that shaded in? You know, they're doing a recount." I'm like, fuck it. Go for it. Recount be damned. They'll pass it eventually. So good news there. Now I got my Maine shaded in. But anyway, there's a piece up in the Portland Press Herald. Marijuana legalization opponents urge lawmakers to take lead in crafting rules. Members of the No on One coalition said legalizing recreational use involves many complicated issues, necessitating a broad and thoughtful approach to the rulemaking process. Yes, because nobody's ever done it before. Gosh, if only we had 4 different state templates to look at. If only we could visit with regulators and lawmakers in, I don't know, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, and Alaska who've been dealing with this for 2 or 4 years already. Gosh, that would make it easier, wouldn't it? I love it how every state that legalizes, the opponents act as if this is the first time legalization has ever happened anywhere. Well, oh my God, panic. We won't know what to do. So some of the things that they're asking about. First of all, Scott has a quote in the piece. He says, "It is far from a mandate. It is clear that there is a deep and broad concern among many Mainers when it comes to the prospect of marijuana legalization. That concern must be heard and must be incorporated into the upcoming legislative process to implement the law. We must not let the pro-marijuana proclivities of Portland dictate the health and safety of Presque Isle." End quote. So this is the old rural versus urban divide. This is the old city mouse, country mouse debate when it comes to marijuana legalization. We heard this in Oregon too. Just because Portland and Eugene like to smoke the devil's lettuce doesn't mean that we ought to have to put up with it out here in bumfuck Oregon. It's the same kind of argument here. I love it when these state initiatives pass, statewide initiatives, but somehow the fact that most of the people in the state live close together in one particular geographic region means that their votes somehow aren't important. We're seeing the same thing at the national level. You're seeing this from the Trumpistan people, the Trumpsters, the Trumpkins. What do we call it? What's the demonym for Trump people? I'm going to go with Trumpkins. We're hearing this from the Trumpkins where, they keep saying that Hillary Clinton won a 2.8 million vote lead in the popular vote. But that's only if you count California. If you take California out, Trump actually won by 1.4 million votes. Right. And if we take out the last 2 decades, I'm a handsome, virile 28-year-old man with hair halfway down my back. Right? Sure, just disregard California because they all live close to each other and like weed. Hillary, whatever. Sorry, mixed my metaphors. Analogies? Similes? Whatever. But, just disregard California's votes for Hillary Clinton because, gosh, they're California and they don't count. Yeah, just disregard the people of Portland, Maine, who supported question 1 because they all live close to each other in Portland. And yet, this kind of thinking actually works on some people. Like this worked in Oregon. This worked when our Oregon Senator, Ted Ferrioli, was able to get a special exemption from the state law written by the lawmakers. They wrote a special exemption to the just passed state law that just passed by 56%. Not a 4,000 vote lead, bare 0.5% gap like Maine, but we're talking a 6% at the time, the greatest win for statewide legalization. Even with that mandate that we had, that mandate was no good because, by gosh, most of that mandate came from, the hippie enclaves of Portland and Eugene. This state senator argued that out in his counties, out in his rural neck of the woods, they rejected the statewide initiative, so they shouldn't have to be bound by this particular codicil of it that required a vote to ban businesses. And the legislature went with that. And the people generally accepted that. Yeah, that sounds fair. Sure. The whole state voted that the law should be one way. But a few people out there in bumfuck didn't like it, so they should get an exception. Well, it's a statewide initiative if the whole state doesn't have to obey it. And I would say the same thing to Scott Gagnon and the folks out there, the No on One. Sure, people in the country might have a problem with that newfangled legalization out there. So scary. Oh, the potheads. Oh, gosh. But that doesn't make their concerns any greater than the people who like the marijuana legalization in Portland because they live in a city and maybe they read a book or, logged onto the internet and learned something at some point. All the votes matter equally. It doesn't matter where you live or how close you are to other people. And then, of course, the cherry on the top of this Puritan cake is the governor there, Paul LePage, which, even you just go outside of the marijuana issue to get all the dirt you need on this guy. Racist pig is what this guy is. But anyway, the governor there and says that he's going to seek legal advice before he signs that proclamation. He's got 10 days to certify that Maine has actually voted to legalize marijuana. He wants to seek legal advice because he says, I have to get some legal advice relative to am I breaking my oath of office by signing this? Because I took an oath of office not only to the Maine Constitution, but to the Constitution and laws of the country. And I'm concerned that this is going to violate my oath of office, which in fact is an impeachable offense. End quote. Yeah, Paul LePage is playing the, oh my gosh, it's illegal under federal law and somebody might impeach me over it card. What do you say about these people, man? Smoke a joint. Relax a little, will you?
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Forwarding the cause of legalization and research of the growing cannabis industry, one podcast at a time. The Cannabiz Radio Network.
Mindful of sustainable practices and limiting their environmental footprint, Sansal Hemp is always grown outdoors, as nature intended. By starting with uniform genetic profiles, Sansal ensures the plant will maintain its optimal performance and yield consistently throughout its life cycle. It is through innovative processes that Sansal is able to achieve pure whole hemp extracts and meet industry requirements and the level of quality desired by many of their customers. Healthy plants, healthy people. SansalCBD.com. Improve your lifestyle naturally.
NORMAL stands for Responsible Adult Cannabis Use. If cannabis use is causing problems in your life, consider taking a break or seeking medical assistance. Consider ceasing cannabis use if you have a family history of mental illness. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery while impaired by cannabis use. Cannabis use is not without risks, even though the risks may be far less than those posed by legal drugs. Marijuana is not addictive, but listening to the Russ Belville Show is.
The Russ Belville Show is proudly sponsored by the Marijuana Business Association. The MJBA, called by NBC News the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce, is the fastest growing business association in the fastest growing industry in America. I've been working with the MJBA for years, and I personally invite you to join the MJBA. MJBA also publishes the popular MJ Headline News on Facebook and the MJNewsNetwork.com and Marijuana Channel 1 on YouTube. Visit mjba.net for more details.
Yarr, thar be pirates here. Har, 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 har. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation, only on CannabisRadio.com.
All right, as we wind things up, a reminder on tomorrow's show, our guest will be Alex Rogers from the International Cannabis Business Conference in San Francisco. We'll also preview a little bit about the ICBC that'll be happening in Berlin, Germany in April. So make sure you tune in to tomorrow's show. I was just checking out the chat room. Glad to see so many people out there, Kathy and Dan and John and many more. And part of the discussion that was going on out there was about Ohio, which has decided that there should be 40 medical marijuana dispensaries, a total of 40 for the whole state of Ohio. And, you know, we get this from a bunch of states, right? Like Washington State has a limit on how many recreational pot shops there should be statewide. And Arizona's got a limit. It's something like one pot shop for every 10 liquor stores, or was it one dispensary for every 10 pharmacies? I can't remember which, but there's a lot of states that have this mechanism for mandating. In fact, I think it's most of them have a mechanism for mandating exactly how many retail outlets there should be for the distribution of marijuana. And I ask myself, why? Why mandate how many licensees there should be? It makes no sense to me, right? Like, how many McDonald's should there be? Now, obviously, there's zoning. We can't put the McDonald's, right in the residential neighborhood. But does anybody limit how many there should be? Maybe some cities. I know, like, some cities don't even let them. Berkeley, California, or whatever, won't even let them in their city. Sure, there's that kind of stuff. But I'm just saying, in a general kind of statewide sense, does anybody ever say there should only be one McDonald's for every 6 churches, or one Arby's for every 10 hospitals, or whatever, right? Nobody ever does that for fast food or any number of possible consumables, right? Why not? Supposedly, the idea behind these limiting the number of outlets for marijuana is, public health, right? We're worried about the public health. Well, aren't we worried about the public health with fast food? Obesity is a huge epidemic in this country. But no, nobody ever says there ought to be only this many McDonald's, or only this many Burger Kings, or only this many, Taco Bells or whatever. Because what happens is that people dictate how many there should be by purchasing those products. And if they have too many outlets, they dilute their customer pool and they can't support their outlet and they have to close that outlet. So there's kind of a natural stay on how many Taco Bells there are going to be. If you open 6 Taco Bells in the same small town, maybe one of them survives, but probably none of them survive because they're diluting their customer base. Similarly, if we opened up too many marijuana outlets, many of them would fail, wouldn't they? And then we'd come up with what the number needs to be through this thing called the market. Imagine that. And given that marijuana is safer than hamburgers, why wouldn't we do it that way? Because marijuana is a completely different product than anything that has ever been produced and consumed and sold and regulated by mankind. We have to come up with completely different rules for it and treat it worse than plutonium because the children. There you go. That's all the time we got for today, but join us tomorrow from our news and interviews you can use for the cannabis community. For everyone here at CannabisRadio.com and Delta 9 Studios, I'm Radical Russ, and until next time, take care of each other, tokers!
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.